Hello and welcome to Around the Nation. I am Jeff Waldorf, your host on Around the Nation. Boy, do I've got a lot of great stories for you today. It's going to be a bit more of a serious day than we had yesterday. Got a lot of really important, really kind of heavy stories that I'm going to get into today, this evening, I should say. A lot of heady stuff. So we're going to start out with a little bit of politics, unemployment benefits, debt ceiling vote. That's fascinating. And go all the way to disastrous video of a little bit of police brutality on the BART. We're going to get into that, and we're going to end up with, hopefully if we get to it, Farrah Abraham. She's back, and you'll never guess why. But first, okay, let's go into a little bit of politics first, a little important news. And we're going to talk a little bit about the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling. Yesterday, the House of Representatives passed a clean debt ceiling bill. Now, it was a vote of 221 to 201 in favor, mostly made up of course, Democrats. The nation is one step closer to actually raising the debt ceiling without any sort of weird deal or any kind of problems. Well, that's actually really fascinating, and it's kind of good news. Now, 28 Republicans joined the Democrats in favor of the measure, so, I mean, it got a little bit of bipartisan support, but just enough for it to squeak through the House and end up in the Senate for debate, where it's sitting right now. Now, of course, John Boehner, he pretty much didn't want to touch it, and he's just like, let's just let the Democrats deal with it. Just let's get it passed, get it through the House. Notice, of course, they didn't add anything to this. Now, there's a closed-door meeting, actually, where they actually tried to repeal the cuts to military pensions. Now, that's incredibly popular. Understandable. We made cuts during the sequester to military pensions, and they were going to attempt to add this onto the clean debt ceiling bill, but they decided that it would be best to split it, since a lot of the Republicans would still vote against it anyway, and they actually wouldn't get enough people to sign on to raise the debt ceiling with those added on, so they went and passed it in a separate bill. And now, later on, when asked about that by reporters, he said that, look, we don't even have 218 votes. When you don't have 218 votes, you have nothing. Pretty much. Now, I have to actually remind everybody that the debt ceiling actually does not mean that we've authorized any new spending. It actually just allows us to borrow money to cover what's actually been spent. Now, I want to show you this clip of John Boehner talking about the decision to raise the debt ceiling. Let's see what he has to say.
He's the one driving up the debt. Then the question they're asking is, well, why should I deal with his debt limit? And so the fact is, we'll let the Democrats put the votes up. We'll put a minimum number of votes up to get it passed.
And that's pretty much what they did. Now, notice that he said that it's the president's debt. It's all the president's debt, right? That's kind of funny because it's actually not the president's debt, at least not all of it. President Obama, if you can remember, inherited a $1.2 trillion deficit and the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Not exactly the president's fault on that one, to be fair. Yes, President Obama has done some spending, but overall, when you look at it, President Obama has actually done the least spending of many of our last presidents. So, I mean, look, we have a deficit right now that's about $680 billion. Okay, that's a lot less than $1.2 trillion that he was left with. He's been reducing the deficit, and it's going to be even, it's going to go down even further, according to CBO projections. Now, since, Bush and the Republicans, however, they drove it through the roof during the Bush years with, things like unfunded tax cuts, the Bush tax cuts, for the rich, especially Medicare Part D, and of course, oh, guess what? Yeah, 2 unfunded wars. That's why we have a huge deficit, and that's part of why we have an enormous national debt. If you remember, Clinton actually left us with a surplus. And what the Republicans do? They pissed it away on tax cuts for the rich, on all those things that I mentioned above. So don't talk about how fiscally responsible you guys are, Republicans, and how this is the president's debt. No, it's not the president's debt. It's your debt from the mess that you made. A large percentage of that is Republicans. Now, if you want to talk about how to cut the debt and the deficit, we can be open to that. I've got a few suggestions. Why don't we talk about cutting the Pentagon budget, the overbloated military budget? Oh, but John, you don't want to do that, do you? No, of course not. All right, I got another idea. If you don't want to cut the military, that's okay. Well, why don't we cut oil subsidies to the tune of $4 billion a year? Oh, never mind. You guys love oil subsidies. Oh, you and your donors, especially. Okay, so why don't we institute something like financial transactions tax? You know, about 0.001 cents for a financial transaction on automated trades on the stock market. Why don't we do that? Oh, right. Once again, you and your party are too much in the hands of Wall Street and the big banks to do that. Not to mention, sadly, a lot of Democrats as well. But, oh, I know. Since you're so worried about deficits, right, then why don't we actually make it so that millionaires and billionaires actually pay what they owe in taxes? And we don't have to raise their taxes. We don't have to raise them. We just have to get them to pay what they actually owe in taxes. 35%. Instead of letting them get massive deductions that allow some of course, the most profitable multinational corporations to pay less than a normal middle-class family and actually use that to reduce the deficit and pay on our debt. Look, we could have had the national debt at a much lower level had we never done the Bush tax cuts for the incredibly wealthy. I'm just throwing that out there. But that's what Republicans do, man. See, these people, they're not actual fiscal conservatives. No. They spend like fucking drunken sailors when they're in office. And then as soon as a Democrat comes into office, suddenly now they're worried about the debt and deficit. Now they cry about it. They whine about, oh my God, you're spending too much. The debt, the deficit, it's so high. You need to cut programs. You need to cut government. You need to reduce the size of government and reduce our spending. Notice how that only happens when a Democrat gets elected. And then you try to cut taxes for yourself as well. And your friends, even more than you already have, while cutting public investment, funding, and of course all the regulation down to pretty much nothing, and trying to get rid of welfare that actually helps regular people in favor of corporate welfare. Look, we've got to stop with that myth that the Democrats are the big spenders here. All right? Don't get me wrong. Both parties love big government. They love it, and they love spending our money. But, at least with the Democrats, you know that some of that money is actually going to find its way into the hands of the people who need it most, instead of the multinational corporations that don't. This whole thing about the president's debt, the president's deficit, Obama's the biggest spender, it is pure Republican nonsense. Pure nonsense. Speaking, of course, of Republican nonsense, let's go to unemployment benefits. I'd say that sidebar is Pretty self-explanatory. All right. Now, Republican lawmakers have pretty much made sure not to pass any more extensions of the long-term unemployment benefits, despite the fact that these benefits are actually not proven to keep people from finding work. It's not a disincentive, nor do these benefits add to the deficit, as this bill, the bill that was recently denied by the Republicans, had the cost offset by cutting spending elsewhere. It wouldn't require any more extra deficit spending. It wouldn't add to the deficit to help these people on unemployment get another 3-month extension. But that didn't stop the Republicans from blocking it. Pretty much putting a middle finger up to people who are depending on those benefits to survive and that they can't find a job. Now, a lot of times, the people that they're putting their middle finger up to are their own constituents, the people that vote for them. Amazing, right? For example, there's someone named Russ Holton. Now, Mr. Holton is a self-avowed conservative who often votes for libertarian candidates. Now, this Mr. Holton used to make probably about $85,000 a year. That's pretty good. That's a good living. Now, he was, of course, laid off in June, ran through his 6 months of unemployment, and got on the unemployment extensions, UEC, or EUC. And he was on EUC for a couple of weeks before the federal program ended. No, see, there's a misconception here, okay? There's a misconception that everyone on the federal unemployment insurance extension program has been unemployed for this entire time. That's not the case. That's not true, okay? And there's also a misconception that people are also pretty much sitting on the couch eating potato chips and watching TV. That's not true either. For example, this guy, he's in school, and he's also working a part-time job now. But he can't make the bills. The part-time job didn't pay as much as the unemployment benefits did, so he's falling behind. He said, quote, it is probably an inevitability that I will have to file for bankruptcy just to get out of it all. All the debt that he's acquiring, he's accumulating, because he doesn't have enough income. He says, I just want someone to have a freaking heart. They, referring to Congress, are going home to a house where all the utilities are paid for, and we are here struggling. Now, my first reaction to this guy is to be a dick and say, well, you idiot. Why did you vote for Republicans that want to eliminate unemployment insurance? Now, this guy's also on food stamps, okay? And that's another thing that the GOP and libertarians want to get rid of. They don't like food stamps. They don't like food stamps. They don't like unemployment insurance. They don't like welfare. To be fair, at least they also don't like welfare of the corporate kind. When you're talking about pure libertarians, that's something that we happen to agree with a lot, to get rid of corporate welfare. So this guy, knowingly voting against his own interests for all that time. That's kind of my asshole side coming out and saying, well, you moron, you vote for it. Now, my bleeding heart liberal side comes out and says, well, look, you got to take care of people. You know what I mean? Yeah, he made some bad decisions and, whatever, voted for people that fucked him over, and that take away the very lifeline that he's trying to survive on. You got to help him. And see, that's kind of the difference between someone like me and someone like Mitch McConnell or Eric Cantor, John Boehner, Rand Paul. People like me give a fuck. We care about those people. And we don't necessarily care about their ideology. We just want to help people. I want to help get this guy good benefits and a better job to get him back to where he's making $85,000 a year. So people like me want that. People like me want them to succeed and are 100% fine with giving him a hand up. Not a handout, but a hand up. And that's what these programs are. They're not handouts like the Republicans and libertarians tend to say that these programs are. Oh, there's just a disincentive to work. It's just a handout from Uncle Sugar. No, this is supposed to help you get back on your feet. Like I said, liberals, like me, we tend to give a fuck. And so do most Americans. A Quinnipiac poll recently done found that 58% of American voters support extending the jobless benefits for another 3 months. Now, of that, breaking it down a little bit, 83% of Democrats are in support of that. 54% of independents support that. But when you look at Republicans, Republican voters, 54% of those Republican voters oppose extending this. Despite the fact that it's revenue neutral, it's paid for, it doesn't even add to the deficit because it was cut from something else, from somewhere else. Isn't that amazing? That 54% of people oppose this. And yet there are so many people, Republicans, that are relying on this right now. From losing their job through no fault of their own and having to get on unemployment insurance. Having to get on unemployment insurance and having to do the extensions. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just a case of people voting against their own interests? It's mind-boggling. Now, Gene Sperling, who's Obama's economic advisor, now he told the press about this, quote, "I think it is inexcusable that it has been blocked. And I think it is particularly inexcusable that when we worked to find the offsets that Republicans asked for, they did not accept them. We cut somewhere else, we offset the cost so that it didn't add to the deficit you scream and whine about, and you still won't help these people. We found a different way to save money. To save money from this money from being added to the deficit. And still, you will not help these people. It's because they don't give a shit about helping people. They don't give a shit about helping the long-term unemployed. You think they're working on creating jobs? No, they're not creating jobs. You think a tax cut on someone who already has millions or billions of dollars is going to create another job just because they feel like it? Just because they have that extra money lying around? No, you need your head examined if you think about that. If you think that that's what they need, that they need to cut taxes again on millionaires and corporations. That's a Republican plan, cutting taxes. And it's been the Republican plan since Reagan. And how's that been working out for you guys? Do you feel the trickle down yet? You feel it? Maybe on your head. That's the only thing that's been trickling down. Listen, they don't care about you. They don't. They don't care about Russ Holton. Only when it comes time for him to vote. That's when they care. Otherwise, they only care about themselves. Or the rich donors. Because in the end, that's who they work for. Wholesale. And don't think Democrats aren't also bought. Because a majority of them are. But at least a lot of them try to pay lip service to people like Holton. And are actually trying to do programs that do both. That help their corporations and regular people. If they can find a way to do both at the same time, they will. Alright, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to fix my camera a little bit, and I'll be back. I've got another story. Stay tuned. Around the nation. Welcome back. Around the Nation, TYT Nation. Thank you for joining us. If you're here watching, then you're a little bit late. Normally start about 5 p.m. Eastern. Hold. All right, back again. Sorry about that. Back here. It's a fun thing. I think you got to remember not to keep phones next to your desk when you're recording. That's a good thing to remember. All right. So we're gonna go on to our next story. It's kind of a little bit of a pick-me-up. I know. Last couple of stories were kind of heavy politics. We're gonna get into something a little bit more personal, I guess. Not so much for me, but a better story. So we'll just get into that. And like I said, it's a little nice. It's good to see. Now I've covered homelessness a lot before, and it continues to be a huge problem. I think too many people tend to ignore the problem of homelessness, unless it is, of course, to further punish the homeless for being unlucky enough to be homeless. Now, whether through laws or through smashing homeless people's shopping carts, like that Democrat from Hawaii. So I'm actually happy to see that there's a new trend of some of our elected officials actually spending a night in a homeless shelter with actual homeless people and getting to know their stories, trying to understand what it's like and to get to know these people. I think that's a fantastic thing. Now, Think Progress actually had a great piece where they write about a Democratic representative from California named Jackie Spear. Now, she stayed in the Maple Street shelter over in Redwood City. Now, I have to mention that she made sure that no one else needed that bed before she decided to stay in that shelter. So I just want to make that distinction. She didn't kick anybody out to the street in order to stay in the shelter. She made sure that that bed was not needed. So that's really good. Now, there's some misconceptions about homeless people that are pushed by idiots like John Stossel, for example. Some of these misconceptions are that these people are lazy grifters, looking for free beds and free handouts. Well, that's ridiculous, for one, and it's incredibly untrue. A lot of homeless people are actually veterans, or they're mentally ill, or just people that are down on their luck, or were affected by the financial crisis. And they also work. That's another misconception, is that, homeless people, they're lazy and don't work, and that's why they're homeless. No, they do work. Spear actually told the San Francisco Chronicle about one woman that she talked to in this recent shelter visit. She said, quote, "One woman was working at Safeway. Her spouse was working at Office Max. Their son was working at Jobs. And here they had to stay in a shelter to save up deposits to get an apartment." As people are in a shelter, they're all working to save up to get out of the shelter. So no, people aren't lazy in the shelters, okay? They're actively trying to work or working to get out of that shelter. And here's another thing, a misconception about shelters, is that they're not free. A lot of them aren't. Many actually will charge people $200 to $300 per rent just to hold their stuff in the form of storage fees. Some even have incredibly draconian rules, like you have to be in at a certain time, or if you don't show up at 8 o'clock in the evening to stay in for the rest of the night, you're out of luck. You're going to get locked out. So like I said, there are some huge misconceptions by people and politicians about homeless people. Now I'm going to get to some more facts about homelessness here. Now, the Bay Area, especially, where Representative Spear was, actually has one of the highest rates of homelessness in the entire country. California has the highest amount of homeless people in the United States. Makes sense because it's huge, right? And last year, get this, 7 homeless people froze to death in California during a cold snap. 7 people froze to death. Can you imagine being that person, having nowhere to go, and freezing to death? Ugh. You don't even want to think about it. That's a major problem. Now, around the nation here, over 6,000 people were homeless on any given night in 2013. And that's of January 2013. More than a third of these people were actually out in the streets, what they call unsheltered. They were sleeping under bridges or in their cars or park benches, which have you. That's 35% of the entire homeless population, and that's according to the annual homeless assessment report to Congress. Now, nationally, 12% of all homeless adults are actually veterans. I mentioned a lot of people are veterans, right? California, of course, has the largest number of homeless and homeless vets. In fact, Representative Spear had told that to the Chronicle. Her experience, she said, I quote, "I met another man who was my age and had been in real estate for 30 years in the East Bay. He was a veteran." There were a lot of veterans here. Veterans. Homeless veterans. People who serve our country. Homeless. It's a shame. It's a national disgrace that should happen. Now, it's not just Jackie Spear that has stayed in homeless shelters. Republican gubernatorial candidate Neil Kashkari, he also stayed in a shelter. In Oakland, nonetheless. A Republican gubernatorial candidate. Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, also stayed in a shelter. And I think that this is something that a lot of our elected officials should do. Spear also did the food stamp budget. Some other politicians have also done the food stamp budget, which I think is great. I think that should also be a requirement for office. Marcia Fudge, I believe she also did the food stamp challenge. Like I said, I think both of these things should be a requirement to hold public office. You need to be able to empathize with those people whose lives yet you're going to affect with your policies. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. Representative Spear said, quote, "Every member of Congress should be required to do what I did. It would help us appreciate who we are talking about. We rattle off numbers, but it doesn't speak about the people themselves." And that's how you build empathy. See, what people don't understand, especially on the Republican side, but it exists on the Democratic side too, so to be fair, is how certain people live. Certain demographic groups, certain subgroups of our people, of our electorate. They don't know how people live because Congress itself is cut off from the people. And did you know that half of Congress is also millionaires? Of course they're cut off from the people. And in order to really understand how regular people live, it actually helps. It helps to walk a mile in their shoes. All right. As if I haven't been depressing enough, this story is probably going to piss you off. I do not have a sidebar for this. Couldn't think of anything appropriate. So, a YouTube video posted on January 30th shows an intoxicated African-American passenger getting arrested and tased twice by a police officer. I do warn you. I've got the video. I'm going to show you a little bit of it. But just to warn you guys, it is a very disturbing video.
Now get off the train! I tell you, get off the train! Get off the train! What? Get off the train! Get off the train, sir! Get off the train! Sir, get off the train! Get off the train! Get off the train! Step off! Get off the train! Get your phone! Get your phone! Sir, get off the train! I'm telling you right now. Sir, step off the train! Step off the train! Step off the train! No! Step off! Taser! Don't move or I'll change you again! Don't move! Don't move! Don't move or get on the floor! Get on your stomach! Get on your stomach! Get on your stomach! Get on your stomach or I'll tase you again! Get on your stomach or I'll tase you again! Get on your stomach or I'll tase you again! Get on, stay on your stomach!
Lay down. Lay down. Relax.
I'll tase him again! Taser!
You're gonna taste again.
Cuff him up!
Now that is incredibly disturbing. Incredibly disturbing. Now the man's name is believed to be Robert. I don't have the last name. And according to a fellow passenger named Vidya Kaipa, I'm sorry if I got that wrong, she was near the front of the train. She actually wrote about this experience and about Robert. And Robert had actually sat next to her. Now, she said he was a pretty nice guy and was making harmless conversation. Now, she also said that at first she felt a little uncomfortable being a small woman, but she said that she did not feel threatened by this man. Not even threatened at all. Now, the police officer probably assumed that she was being threatened and wanted to ask him some questions. Now, Miss Kaipa, she tried to let the officer know that, no, he's not bothering me. This man is not bothering me. Go ahead and leave him alone. She actually said, quote, it's fine. He's not bothering me. It's okay. And after that point, she writes, quote, it went from being about me to being about the police officer. Now, the officer basically said that he kept saying that he just wanted to ask Robert some questions. Now, Robert didn't want to. You know, why? Why did he have to go and answer any questions? He was minding his own business, talking to somebody on the train. No harm, right? And since he didn't do anything wrong, well, the officer kept asking, I got to ask you some questions. Robert responded, why? Why do I have to answer your questions? I'm not doing anything wrong. Why are you picking on me? I wasn't bothering this girl. Even she says that I wasn't bothering her. We're just making conversation. At that point, the officer actually pulled him out of his seat, and that's when the video actually begins. And this is according to the witness account of somebody who was right next to Robert. Okay? So, look, man, this is fucked up. All right? Now, I understand the officer was checking in on the young woman, right, who was in that video. And that's fine. But after that, after she after she explained that she was okay and that she wasn't being threatened by this guy, he should have left it alone. He's supposed to protect and serve, not assault. Okay? At some point, this really became about the police exercising his authority and tasing a guy for doing nothing, for not doing exactly what he says, for no reason. Remember, he wasn't perpetrating a crime. He was having a conversation with a young woman. and didn't feel like answering questions. Is that a crime? Is that a crime now? According to this police state that we live in, apparently it is. Apparently it's a crime for not listening to a police officer and being obedient. And that will somehow get you tased and arrested. It's also disgusting that he was tased a second time when he was on the ground. He wasn't fighting back. BART's policy on tasers states that, quote, an officer can use a taser if the suspect poses an immediate threat of bodily harm to either the officer's life or another person's life. Did it look like somebody's life was in danger there? Yeah, he got up and then he sat right back down. He was not a danger to that police officer. He wasn't in danger the first time he was tased. And he certainly wasn't in danger the second time that they tased this man. This is a blatant use of excessive force for no reason. There's no excuse for this. There's no reason for this whatsoever. Should have left it alone. There was no reason for that cop to get involved. After they checked on that woman to make sure that she was okay and not being bothered, should have left it at that. But look, man, we live in a police state now. And it's especially bad if you're a minority, if you're an African American. Guaranteed that the cop would not have been suspicious if Roberts had been a white male. But here you go. You had a scary black man who was a little bit intoxicated, and automatically those policemen see a criminal. A suspicious man. It's sick, man. It's absolutely sick and uncalled for. All right, I gotta take a quick break. I'm pissed. I'll be back around the nation. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. Just a little bit angry after that story. Let's go to real quick story, something that's a little bit more lighthearted, about the Sochi Olympics. In this, like I said, much lighter story, makes me a little happier. Russian cross-country skier Anton Gafarov was in the men's cross-country semifinals in the Olympics. Now, Gafarov was basically, they thought he was going to get some medals. He was a real medal contender, but during this cross-country finals, his skis broke and got wrapped up around his leg. he crashed a couple of times, and, well, he wasn't exactly in the running after that. Now, the Russian coaches didn't seem to give a shit. They didn't even try to help him. So, leave it to a Canadian cross-country men's coach, Justin Wadsworth, who's actually an American. I believe he's from California. And he's gotten his a few medals of his own. It was up to him to show the world how to be a stand-up sportsman. Now, he said when he saw Anton Gafarov crash his skis, he said, quote, "It was like watching an animal stuck in a trap. You can't just sit there and do nothing about it." So what did he do? Wadsworth came out and untangled the skis from Gavarov's leg and actually allowed him to finish the race with, as Wadsworth put it, dignity as he crossed the finish line. You know, it's kind of good to see sportsmanship well and alive in the Olympics in Sochi, and it's not the first time it's happened. You know, it's good to see good sportsmanship. You know, I'm not really interested in the Olympics too much, but nonetheless, you know, it's a positive story. It's good to see somebody helping another human being, and that's really kind of the sort of spirit of cooperation that I love to see. So, you know, hats off to you, Justin Wadsworth. You have actually made my day a little bit better. Go Blue. It actually even made me happier knowing that he wasn't Canadian. Because actually that's something that you would expect a Canadian to do, since Canadians are generally pretty nice people. But he was an American, which makes it even better. It just shows that there are good people here in America. And good sportsmen. Alright. On to our final story. Like I said, this is not news or politics related. But still, figured I'd do it anyway. Oh boy. Farrah Abraham, she is a young woman who got famous from being on MTV's hit show Teen Mom, although I don't really know if it's a hit. She just released a second porno video called Farrah 2 Backdoor and More with co-star James Dean. Now, the reasons that I'm bringing this up, I've got a couple. One is, of course, when Farrah did her first porn, she called it a quote-unquote leaked sex tape, which I think is hilarious and ridiculous both at the same time because it was clearly a porn. I mean, you do a porn with a porn star, you cannot release it and say, "Oh my God, it's a sex tape, guys. I'm sorry." I don't know how that got leaked out there. That sex tape, it's not porn, I swear. Okay. And second, because she had recently came out and talked about that sex tape and how it ruined her life. So you do a sex tape with James Dean, try to pass it off as a leaked sex tape. It was a porn video, sorry. I keep getting that mixed around. So you do a porn with James Dean, you call it a leaked sex tape, and then you go later talk about how this sex tape ruined your life, or I'm sorry, this porn. You go on about how this porn ruined your life, and then you make another one? Are you fucking kidding me? Not only that, but she's actually been making plaster casts of her, you know, her stuff, right? Plaster casts to try and make a couple of bucks. Look, let's get some things straight here. I don't have an issue with porn. I don't have an issue with people doing porn. I really don't even have that much of an issue with Farrah. It's just the issue that I have is the whole dishonesty of the thing. The lying, all right? And the saying that, no, it's leaked. It's a leaked sex tape, not a porn. Where I happen to be having sex with a porn star in a studio and got paid for it. It's the dishonesty of the whole thing. That's what bothers me. The consistent lying. If you're going to do a porn, just do a porn and call it a porn. If you're a porn star, admit that you're a porn star. which apparently she now qualifies as a porn star because she has starred in 2 porns now. Both having to do, ironically, with the back door. I don't know what that whole thing's about. And by the way, she actually didn't make $1 million off that first porn, by the way. So I think she got shafted in more than one way. Okay? More ways than one, for sure. So then she, like I said, she claims that it ruined, the first porn video ruined her life, and then she goes back and makes another one. It's just, it's the dishonesty, it's the back and forth. She is messed up. And I don't mean because of the porn. The porn didn't screw her up. Her life screwed her up. And look, I feel bad for her. Okay? Even though she's been shown to be a serial liar, I feel bad for her. And she's also made some really, really bad decisions. In fact, her entire claim to fame is based on some of those bad decisions. Getting pregnant in high school. Buying a super expensive car from her porn money and not like using that to invest in her future or, you know, invest in her child's future. And now she's doing another porn. I mean, look, like, I don't want to sit there and really bash on her because I do feel really bad about her. And she's a train wreck. And that's why. That said, I think what she's doing really is trying to keep herself relevant. I mean, she's got George Zimmermanitis, I think. Trying to do outrageous things in order to get back that fame. In order to be in the news again. Because once you get a taste of that fame monster, that's hard to pass up. And how do you go back to living a regular life? How do you go back to doing regular things like regular people? Getting like a job at like Burger King or something like that after you've been famous, after you've made a bunch of money doing something rather simple. How do you go back to that? Well, you can't. I mean, you could. It's really difficult, but you could. And see, she doesn't want to do that. She wants to get back into this. That's why she made another porn. Not because she enjoys doing porn. At least I assume. No, it's because she wants that fame back. She wants to be relevant. She wants to create another controversy around herself. I mean, that's the reason these people do crazy things like that. I just hope, for her kid's sake, that she kind of gets her head on straight, or at least stops being dishonest about it. If she wants to be a porn star, and admit that you're a porn star. Be honest with yourself, and be honest with everybody else. And stop creating controversy about yourself. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do anybody any good. Alright. That's it for today. Thank you guys for joining us here around the nation. Make sure to tune in every Monday and every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, here on TYT Nation, youtube.com/TYT Nation. And of course, make sure to tune in on Thursdays and Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern, for TYT Community and TYT Community Social Justice Hour, hosted by my lovely co-host, Rihanna Navany. And also make sure to visit our Facebook page, like our Facebook page, facebook.com/TYT Nation. Follow me on Twitter, @JeffsPolitics. That's where I post a lot of our video links, as well on the Facebook page and on the Twitter account. So be sure to go there to catch up on some of our content. Also, we're still doing our patron drive. We've got 5 patrons helping to fund the show on a monthly basis. $1, $3, $10, whatever you want to donate on our Patreon page, on our campaign, patreon.com/TYT Nation. Check us out. If you love the show and you've got like $1 you want to donate to help keep the show running and to help improve things about the show, help me get better stuff, better cameras, some better lighting, or, I mean, there's a lot of different things that I could put that money towards. Better equipment, faster computer, we can get more content out. That would be fantastic. If not, that's alright. Like and share this video. You know, that helps out a ton. Subscribe. Get your friends to subscribe. All that stuff. helps so much. And I appreciate you guys for watching. I love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern, on TYT Community. We've got Ron Placone tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. We're looking forward to doing that. I'm looking forward to meeting Ron, doing a show with him. So please stay tuned. Thank you, and we'll be back tomorrow. Bye.